Yeah, I got it. I got it. I got it.
You see someone that you know and they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
I am the one, the way your son don't need a gun to get respect up on the street. Under the sun, the bastard son will pop the clock to feed himself and family. By any means, your enemies, my enemies.
Shit! I got it. Yeah, I got it. I got it. I got it.
Bruh, look at this dude. Wait till you see the. No.